presented. Hello, welcome. I'm Monica Galantucci. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm Monica Galantucci. I'm the CEO and founder of M74. We are a post-production company based in Rome. We work for the major platform as Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime. This is our first time at the Blender conference. We are here to show you some interesting projects that we made with Blender. And then Andrea will show you our project. Now, let's our showreel. No? Play. No? Sorry. It doesn't start. No, sta sopra. It doesn't work, just, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Andrea Battistoni. I'm a VFX supervisor and 3D supervisor, and in spare time I'm a credit director. I've been working for 20 years in the VFX Italian industry. I start with 3ds Max, and when I was 13, it was called 3D Studio for DOS. The Italian industry is growing so much, is getting better for quality and quantity of the movies and the shooting. First time I met Blender was in the 2005, when the version was 2.35. I like the interface, it's so clear, in difference of the other software like the 3ds Max, that version after version became heavier and heavier. I was always afraid to change my primary software since the 2.8 version. It was like bolt out of the blue. I like the interface, the Eevee, the sculpting, all the tools of the Blender. I'm starting to see the Blender Today live every Monday since today. I download every day the experimental version to see the new feature every day. And in 9 months, I convinced all my colleagues to switch to Blender, and in this time, we changed all our primary software to Blender. We don't use Blender because it's free. We use Blender because it's made with love. Because it's GPU busted, and when you have a lot of GPU, you can save a lot of time and money. Because it's only one software, you can do the sculpting, the vertex paint, and the particle system, the animation rigging, only one software. It has a perfect integration with the other software, like Houdini, with the OpenVDB format and the Alembic, because it's daily updated, and we like so much to work with the project linking file. First project I want to show you is The Land of Dream, that comes out in theater next week. Is a musical directed by Nicola Batangelo, and in this project we help another facility that are doing the VFX, and in this sequence they told the model of this building, the choo-choo train, that was made in 3ds Max and took about 40 minutes per frame to render. And I decided to switch to Blender, and the time dropped down to 12 seconds per frame. Also, the smoke was rendered in Eevee and in 20 seconds per frame. All the tracking was made in Blender. The other things to do is that the lenses was anamorphic lenses, but the Blender camera tracker didn't do a great job with these lenses. There are some other shots. And another sequence important is the route of the rail of the stairs, always made totally in Blender, tracked, animated. So you can see me in the computer. This is the wireframe, and then the final result. Okay. Another project that I want to share with you is Vera de Verdad. It's an independent movie produced by Macaya Film and co-produced by us, M74. It's a story about a little girl that disappeared in the little town, and after 2 years returned in his town older and with strange powers. All the effects are made in Blender, also the final simulation of the 2 stars that exploding. Thank you. Thank you. Another project of the Italian movies is più forti del destino, is Stronger Than Fate. This is based on a real story, happened in 1819, in a fairground that was a big fire. In this movie, we made all the fire with simulated in Houdini and rendered in Blender. Thank you. Last but not least, far from it, is a project called Divin Codino in Italian, is Divin Ponytail, directed by Letizia Lamartile and produced by Fabula Picture. This movie, I felt in love with this movie because it's the story of one of the best soccer player in the world, Roberto Baggio. I'm not a fan of soccer, but he was one of the key person of my childhood. And we have done a great job to reconstruct all the stadium and the people, the crowd, the cars, everything about the 80 and the 90 in the 90s. This is the first movie where I put VFX and CG made in Blender in the end of titles. This is the breakdown of the shot. Okay. Thank you. Another breakdown of the CG Stadium reel that we recreate. Now let me introduce Nicolas. I'm proud to introduce Nicolas that show you in detail what the job we have done for this project. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm the one who's going to bore you with detailed explanations. I'm Nicolas D'Amore, I'm from Argentina, but it's more than 20 years now that I live in Italy, and I'm in love with Italy. I started hobbies I think it was 15 years ago with Blender. I actually started with True Space by Caligari, but then Microsoft bought it and just let it die. So I switched to Blender. Started as a hobby. I started with modeling and texturing and shading. Then I fell in love with camera track. I did the training with Sebastian Koenig about motion tracking, which is something that I do a lot in the studio. But in the last years, I decided to become an animator. So I started studying the Blender Studio, and then I went to Animation Mentor, which is an online animation school, which is really great. So I became a professional animator. And I also love doing rigs. So I'm the one who does really difficult stuff in the studio, but I enjoy it. I think it was 2 years ago, Andrea called me to become part of the studio, and I think it was one of my best decisions in my life. Okay, I have to ask for the rise of my pay, so that's why. Maybe many of you know me because this is not my first time at the Blender conference. It's more than 10 years that I came here. I'm what it's called a Blender conference dinosaur because it's 12 years that I came here. And I did 2 presentations the last time with my friend Luca. I know where he is. Okay, I'm going to start some detailed explanations about the crowd. I was responsible for the crowd of this movie, The Divine Ponytail. One word about the title of this movie. This soccer player, Roberto Baggio, who I have to admit that I didn't know before the film because I'm not a fan of soccer. He was a great Italian soccer. The Divine Ponytail, I think it's not a fair translation of the title of the movie. I mean, in Italy they call Il Divin Codino, but it's a nickname that we use just in Italy, I guess. So in the rest of the world, maybe the Divine Ponytail is not the fair translation. It's almost a silly translation. It's okay, we didn't decide, of course. Okay, the first thing I did was search for a free model, because we didn't have enough time to model 1,000 people. This is a free model from internet, but I had to do the rig from scratch because it wasn't good enough. So it wasn't no IK, no foot roll. I mean, the foot roll is something to do like this. I don't know if you're watching my feet. So I grabbed a man and a woman. And believe it or not, this is more than enough if you need to make a crowd. Because, of course, our crowd was meant to be out of focus, far from the camera, so we are not talking about detailed people. Okay, so now we have a man and a woman already rigged. I made also a little bit of facial expressions. I mean, even though they didn't have to speak, of course, but it's important when the fan in the stadium start going like this. If the face is dead, you're going to notice this. Even though the crowd is far from camera, you're going to notice that the face of the audience is dead. So I added a little bit of facial expressions, so like blinks or doing like this, or open the mouth for when Baggio scored, for example, or when it's a fail or something, or people going like this. It's important to add this to your crowd. Okay, once I had the rigs, I started to do lots of animations. I mean, really, literally thousands of animations. So I took my phone, I did a video reference. I'm never going to show that reference for anyone in the world. I'm the only one who watched that video reference because I'm embarrassing myself shooting, doing like claps and exaltations, also insulting because people have to insult the player soccer, of course. Yeah, everything. People in Italy are very expressive with, very gesticular. So here are some examples. I started with something simple like people clapping. But the most important part here is you have to be smart and reuse lots of animations. In which way? For example, here I'm using the action editor. So I could do easily different type of clapping. So like this, then like this. Then the same thing, sit and stand up. This animation is a little bit longer because he has to move a little bit. He can't stay still because you're going to notice that people is dead if it's just not moving. So I try to do my best to do lots of animations. I have to admit that these animations are far from perfect, but again, this is going to be far from the camera and a lot of out of focus. Okay, it took me like almost a month and a half doing literally hundreds of animations for him and for her, of course. Here are, I'm going to show you some exaltations, some insultings. I must admit that she was way better acting, even though I did the video reference myself. She was way better as an actress. And I can't explain that, but it's okay. It's the way it did. You're watching a time lapse. So this is not the real frame rate for the animations because it's way too fast. Of course, this is the time lapse. So again, the same animation. I'm trying to reuse it when he sit and when he stand. I didn't have enough time to animate that kind of animation. That imagine 100,000 people in a stadium. You have every animation possible. So there's no team that can really do that. So I reuse a lot. Okay. Then this was the most important part for me. Now I have a lot of animations. Let's say people clapping, people insulting, people doing exaltations, but I need a transition. I mean, when he's clapping, then he stops clapping and start, let's say, insulting. I need that animation between both of them. So I could blend them together perfectly, seamless. Okay, so I did a lot of animation doing just those transitions. So here you can see he just stopped clapping and then he jumps and start another animation I did before. Those transitions were the key for me to reuse those animations in every single shot of the movie, which was a lot of work because I was the only animator and rigger for this project. So it took me, in total, I think it took me like 5 months or so to do everything. Okay. Now, once you have every animation set, I have to check if everything is working seamless. I mean, from one animation to another one, before starting building the crowd system, which was really hard. So I'm using here the video sequence editor, who is great for me. It's like editing my animation. So imagine having all your animations in the action editor, and then grabbing one by one. Of course, I'm talking what you're watching here are renders. But imagine like taking every single animation and to test if everything's work, doing this in the video sequence editor, like a video mixer animation system before geometry nodes, of course. We didn't know animation geometry nodes yet. So what you see here are the different clips, like he's clapping from, he's clapping like this, clapping like that, clapping in another way, trying to blend them together and watch if everything here is going seamless, of course, which it was. But it took me a lot of time, of course. Okay, now we have let's say everything is set. Okay, here's just some renders. Again, animations are far from perfect, but this crowd is going to be was going to be far from camera and out of focus. She was great. I love the I love the animation. I think she was great. Let's say that he has to work on his acting. She was great. Okay. Now I had to put every single animation in just one file. So I started duplicating the rigs and the models. And for every model you see, I have one animation. So people clapping, people exalting, people insulting, people moving, people just like an idol and watching and talking. We have here in the front some couples, so a man and a woman. Of course, we also use flags. Here we have a man and a woman, like couples, like married. We're talking, we are just fighting, we are just discussing. That was really hard to do because I had to use one single mesh in 2 rigs. And that was hard because I had to use a vertex group and say, okay, this part of the mesh, you have to follow that rig. And that part of the mesh, you have to follow that rig. And that was freaking difficult, even with shape keys for their facial expression and so on. But it was fun. I'm really happy with that. Okay, now the most tricky part. This is the NLA, the non-linear animation, which I still think is underestimated. This is a really, really powerful thing is Blender. It's not intuitive at all. It's really hard to put your hands on. But as soon as you get the values, the correct values, I think you can do really great stuff. And I use it. So here is one example file. I put in all my animations like I did in the VSA before, like video editing action system. So people here are, let's say, start clapping, then they stand up, maybe they're go-ons clapping, they stop clapping and doing some different action. And that was key for me. This system, I still think is great, even though lots of people complain about it, but I love it. I admit that it's not easy. Okay, for the shader, of course, because we saw just one kind of t-shirt and trouser, and we didn't use that, of course. Andrea, we had another colleague, came out with a very interesting and simple and complex at the same time system with color ramps and random voodoo black magic shader that I don't know. But in a few words, just as soon as you duplicate the model, the model automatically change clothes, which is great. So I start populating this crowd. With just one click, you automatically get another person, and so on, as you can see here. I still cannot understand how they did. But it was a great job. I'm not a shader artist, so for me it's okay. Okay. So let's say that we theoretically now have a huge crowd with every action, with a shaded system and everything. I'm going to show you 2 examples of how hard a shot became, even though it seemed easy, it's not. We are watching now the final shot several times, of course. I love the shot. I really love the shot. It was one of the most difficult ones to do. Okay, first thing. Oh, this is the original plate, by the way. We didn't have the stadium. I mean, it's not the crowd. It's just only the crowd. As you can see, there's no stadium. It's just a green carpet with a net, and that's it. So first thing, of course, camera track. As I said before, I love doing camera track, so I did it by myself. It took me a lot because it looks easy when you watch the tutorials of a camera track with a table with something in the middle, but then when you go to a VFX company, you have to do those camera tracks, which is another level, of course. We're talking different things. Then one of the most difficult parts, believe it or not, is placing the camera in the exact position. It's not as easy as it could seem, because even though the camera track is working, every single pixel has to be placed perfectly in the stadium. That took me a lot. I mean, in some shots, it took me like 2 hours just figuring out where to put the camera, if it's too far, if it's not, higher or not. It looks easier, but it's not. Then we have my crowd. I just append the whole crowd, as I said before. This is going to be the collection I use for particle system. Again, we didn't use geometry nodes yet back in the days, so we are still using particle system, which, again, I think it's a powerful, really powerful tool yet. Okay, now I can call this done. I mean, the camera track is working, the position is set perfectly, the crowd is doing what it has to do, and that's it. And here you can see a little breakdown of the shot. So the original plate, camera track, replaced with the stadium and the crowd. Okay, that was a lot of work. Now, another shot, last for this project. We didn't use just a 3D crowd. I mean, we had some place of people clapping, people doing anything for shots like this. Let's see it in the final version. Okay, this is after Roberto Baggio scored. That is not 3D people. These are plates of really, real footage of people trying to act, trying to do, okay, yeah, Roberto Baggio, porca. Okay. Yeah, they're Italian, of course. Okay. Again, I did the camera track, thanks to Sebastian Cuni, who teach me, who is right there in the, in the room. That was a little bit easier, but again, it's not that easy. One more time, the camera placement has to be perfectly set, otherwise this is not going to work. Once I did the camera track, I bought my stadium, once I did. This is easier, those are just planes, and here the done images as planes are great, with the alpha channel, of course. The only thing I had to do was just match the exit point, when the exit place when he scored, so people start to moving the flag or waving the flag, etc. But this is a much easier shot to handle. Okay, so basically we had two kind of crowds, the 3D crowd and 2D crowd, let's say. Okay, that's it for Il Divin Codino, as we call the project. I want to show you a very difficult sequence of this series. Let's see the final result. I don't want to do some spoilers, but let's say that this is a car crash scene. In the this is a series, it's not a film. In the chapter before, she made a crash accident, and we don't know yet if she's still alive or not. And the chapter after that starts like this, with the kid, which is the son, I think, starts saying, I'm sorry? Mom, wake up, she says.
Mamma, svegliati!
Yeah, Mom, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Mamma, svegliati, ti prego.
I think it's too dark. Is it not possible to dim the light here? Oh, thank you so much. Thanks a lot. It's dark anyway. I think it's something with the compression, because you cannot watch almost anything. I'm sorry about that. She's trying to get out of the car. And the car is almost getting down. It's almost falling. Spoiler, she made it. I'm so sorry for the compression. I didn't know you was going to watch it like this, but basically it's a car that is almost falling down, and she tries to escape, to get down of the car, and she did it. The client here asked for make the glass broken. I mean, it's almost everything is footage, but as you can see, there's there are no broken glasses on the windows, so we basically had to do that. Then in the final shot, we had to do the car and the cliff and everything, so just a full CG shot, but just for the last shot. But in every almost shot, we had to do just the car glasses. Now, this is very important. I do my best to explain my workflow here. I had to do 38 shots of camera track and object track to replace this, to add these glasses. So what I decided to do is have in one single scene one file of the car and the glasses and the 38 camera moving around. So every time I'm add or modify something, I automatically have this change in every single shot. I don't know if this is clear enough. I do my best to explain it. So I started with the first shot, start the camera track, of course. By the way, the first shot was the most difficult one because the level of detail there is really high. In the other shots, the camera was far away, so let's say it's kind of okay. But in this shot, again, every single pixel has to be set in place perfectly. Otherwise, the car glass is going to move, and you was going to notice it. Here, I'm just using proxy plays and circles just to see if the camera track is matching, is working correctly. Okay. Then the model was super simple. I mean, just I modeled this car, these glasses. I think it took him like 15 minutes, really simple, because the client was super specific with what kind of glasses, of broken glasses, he wanted. He also showed us some texture for the glass, which you're watching there in the UV editor. We are mixing like 3 or 4 UV maps. I don't remember. I think it was 4 to get the desired result, because again the client was super specific, super precise about that. So we had to match his reference. But again, this was the most easy part for the project. Model the glasses. Once I had it, of course we did some illumination to match the footage and so on. I'm using that proxy, as you can see, just for the shadow catcher and the shadows. I mean, we are not render, of course, that thing. I don't know how to call it even. Okay. Anyway, I use a model of a car just to match the camera track. I mean, for me, it was super important to know if every single pixel of the camera track is working, and without a model of a car, it was really difficult for me to figure out. So I tried to deform with lattices this car, because the car after the accident was so damaged, of course. So this is a very precise work, of course. You have to match everything, the camera track, the glasses, and so on. Okay, here you can, of course I'm using the markers to bind cameras, so you can see from frame 1 to 3 south something, I'm using camera 1, then with the marker and binding to another camera, and so on, like this for 38 shots. Like 2 months of work, something like that. It was crazy. It was really crazy. But they say I'm crazy, so it's okay. I don't know why they gave me every time shot like that, but it's fine. It's fine. I enjoy it. Okay, here I'm using an object camera, an object track. So not only camera track, but also object track with just a few points. I mean, I think I had just 8 points, which is okay, because I cannot mark more than that. But it's okay. Blender is so awesome camera track. Seriously, it's great. It's a great tool. Okay, here I'm parenting everything with an empty, using the object solver, trying to see if everything's matching correctly, which it was. So it's okay. Then I had to use library overrides for some technical reasons, and I used lattices to move the glasses to match in every single shot, every single piece of the glass with the doors and with the ceiling, which was crazy. But of course, doing so many camera tracks, you always have at least one shot with the glass is not fitting perfectly, so you have to move it, but the model is linked, so you cannot do it, so you can use lateral over eyes and put the lights. But we did. But we did. Okay. For the last shot, maybe you couldn't see it because it was so dark. I'm sorry about that, but the car falls down and she gets out of there. So we needed a model of a car. And we discovered that at the end of the project, which is a shame, but we did it in time. Here I'm doing camera track, object track for the first few frames where the car starts falling, but then I had to animate a digital double of the model. We used projection mapping. I mean, we took one frame, just project it to the car, use some texture paint, really easy. Because the car wasn't moving a lot, just was falling a little bit. I just animated the wheels a little bit because it is slow motion anyway, and that's it. Nothing fancy. But I'm an animator, so I can animate a falling car easily. Okay, that's why I did Animation Mentor. Okay, for the last shot, we needed a digital double of the cliff, and that was really difficult because we had to match the real footage. So I had to do the camera track, put in place the model of the car, the cliff, the vegetation. I think we used grasswald, I don't remember. I think we used grasswald because I didn't do the cliff. Just for one single shot. Let me see, yeah. That was hard because you have to match also the shadows. I'm using the cliff also for shadow capture, the light, which was supposed to be just the moon. That's why it was so dark. But we used some fake lights to show better what it was going on. And the background, as far as the camera was moving away, a little bit of depth was important to have. So I split this in two parts in order to have a little bit of depth, as I said. I cut it with poly modeling. I mean, I use my mask in the viewport. I do my mask in the viewport with vertex modeling. That's why my supervisor said I'm crazy. But I really enjoy doing these things. Okay, it's for the clips. That's all for that sequence. The last project I'm going to show you is what my supervisor Andrea called the smart tracking. What a smart tracking is when you have to do a camera track, but you don't have points enough to track. In this sequence, you're going to show you, I had 1 point, just one. Fortunately, the camera was moving a lot, which was just rotating. So what I did is tracking that point, put in an empty, make it that empty as an animation, bake that animation, put that animation in the camera, and invert it. Is that clear enough? Okay, let's show us. This is Più forte del destino, stronger than fate, I think. This is an actress. We had to put more fire. I mean, she's on fire, but not enough. So I had to, let's say that I have to do the camera track, then I have to put a digital double, animate it perfectly, and then add some flames and render not the actress, not my digital model, but just the frames to put on top of her. Of course, every single pixel here has to be perfect, of course. So can you see that marker on the left? This is what I'm tracking, just 1 point. So let's say that here I'm kind of using some stabilization. Actually, I'm just tracking 1 point. Then I use that marker, and I put an empty, as I said before. I told Blender, okay, put an empty there, and animate it empty. Okay, so now we have an empty that is just going up and down, basically. I bake that animation, so now I have not a camera track anymore, but an empty going just up and down. I put that action, I put that animation on the camera and invert it. So, but I put it on the rotation, not on the translation. I admit that this is kind of difficult, but basically, just tracking what point, I can pull off an animated camera. in the perfect, almost, let's say, perfect way. So now I have the background, my 3D scene, the background, not the background, so the camera moving as a array camera. Now I have a model. Believe it or not, I use the same model of the divine ponytail. I just added the skirt. It's the same guy. Because I'm an animator, I could animate this thing. It took me 1 day and a half, I think. But again, the animation has to be really precise, really perfect, because then we have to add flames and everything. So we cannot cheat here. I cannot cheat. I have to do it for real. Okay, this is just a breakdown of what is happening. That's it. We had a Houdini artist who did the file. Then he gave it to us, and then we rendered in Blender, and that's it. Okay, that's it for me. Please welcome back Monica, who's going to conclude. Thank you so much.
Okay, I would like to show you 2 videos. This is an amazing project that we did for the Renaissance Award, produced from Livia Fort and set on the Palazzo Vecchio on Florence. We are lucky because we could shoot inside the Palazzo Vecchio in the night. And the palace is reserved of us, of the production, and let's watching the behind the scene. Freccia, giù. Ok. Allora Okay, that's it. Up.
So is this where the left outline and then?
When you do that, you're approaching you, so then you're looking at your finger. Right. And the butterfly, and then you let it go.
Coming straight here. Good.
Yeah, we're gonna transform you. Okay.
Bellissimo.
Okay. Even though we are a visual effects company, I decided to produce an animation short movie directed by Andrea Battistoni that it is set on the space. M74 is a galaxy. The main character is Arturo and Helix. Arturo is an astronaut lost in the space, and enjoy. Uno l'ho presa, no? Un altro? Okay.